So we're at the Harlow and you're one of the coaches.
Yeah.
How long have you been at the Harlow?
I've been an affiliate for just a few weeks actually, yeah, it's a great environment. It's a really nice sort of team to be part of. As Andrea sort of will tell you, there's a whole range of support here, and coaching has its own special place within that range.
And we're kind of mid-September. The students have either just gone back or they're starting their first year. School kids went back a few weeks ago, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's a big time, isn't it, for families, both for the young people and the parents.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
it's the term sort of empty nesting is seems to be a big thing at the moment, doesn't it? And that's a particular area of yours?
Yeah, so as I say, I'm a coach, but at the moment I'm working on an empty nesters workshop, which I'm going to be doing at the Harlow, and it's brought up a lot of questions about what is an empty nester, what's the situation, and it's fascinating really. It's children going off, parents letting them go, and all the conflicting feelings that brings about, and for lots of parents it's almost a time where they feel a sense of profound loss or grief, even because their everyday focus of getting their kids to school, getting them sorted, what are we having for tea, these really quite simple things, suddenly when that's gone, even though you're prepared for it and even though you've spent their entire lives working towards this moment, suddenly there's this quiet, empty, tidy, which is quite nice actually, house. And I think it can take many parents by surprise, because this is what your whole job was, and then you've achieved it and you're left with this sense of loss and lack of purpose. And
I think many think of maybe, the mum, because the roles are different, aren't they, between mum and dad. People think of sort of the impact on the mum maybe more, but I can see there's sort of an impact on the relationship, between the mum and the dad, because if suddenly the dynamics have changed so much in the household, they've only got time for each other, which I suppose can be good or bad.
Yeah, well, I think it's a time of the whole thing is about, it's a time of change and it's a time of transition. And the one thing about change and transition is it's uncomfortable. And transition almost has to be uncomfortable, because you have to go through a process to then learn and grow essentially and move on to something new. And I think exactly for couples, your everyday life is different, and your energy which you've been devoting to your children, suddenly you now have this spotlight on your relationship. So yeah, I think there will always be a period of transition when your children leave, and I suppose if I'm talking about it from a coaching perspective, it's being able to approach that transition with an intention to, where are we going, instead of sitting there thinking, oh God, this is rubbish, this is boring, or oh my goodness, all we do is watch telly. Or, you might start to think, okay, what have we always wanted to do together, or what does our life hold for us in the future? And I think for lots of parents, you haven't had time or money or the energy to even think about yourself and what you want out of your life, and suddenly this is an amazing opportunity really. And that's what I really want to get across with the coaching and the workshops, is your first reaction to children leaving home is most probably going to be a sense of loss and lack of purpose, but actually it's a real time to think about what you've achieved in these children who are able to leave the home and function outside of it, you hope. But also to start thinking, getting your own desires flowing. It's like, oh, what do I want to do? And I just think if you can make that transition through those emotions and through those, those stages, I suppose.
And would you ideally start that process well before, if you like, the the person leaves home? Is it like a sort of almost like getting yourself ready for that place?
I think I can relate to this because I'm in this position myself at the moment, and I think you do start to think about it. So I've got 2 who've essentially flown the nest and 2 still at home, but they're in 6th form. So I'm very much, thinking, okay, so this has been part of my journey to become a coach and to do what I've always dreamed of doing. So I think it's a natural progression. I think there's a biological process of teenagers pulling away. Once they get to 14 or 15, teenagers will actually start to extricate themselves from that very close relationship with their parents. So I think it does happen almost on its own. But I have to say that the shock of them leaving that day, that bit happens gradually, but the day that they leave home to go to university or to go to a job or move out is a very sudden, shocking moment that even though you've prepared for it, it can still take you by surprise, I think.
And it must be different for the dad and the mum. I suppose, if we're sort of looking at traditional caveman roles, if you like, the dad is typically the protector, and I can sort of feel the comments on this video as I say that, but there is that is a very sort of traditional role. And I think do you find that the dad is much more concerned about the safety of the child, or the young person going to university, or does it not? I think
everybody's so different. I think my sort of the observations from people I've spoken to about it, or clients, is that I think you're right. I think men feel the loss of their children. This is in general.
Yeah,
so this is a general rule. Will feel the loss of their kids. They'll notice that they're coming home and it's quiet and tidy, and I think they'll definitely feel protective and hope that they've prepared their children for surviving on their own. I think mothers feel almost a loss of identity. So. And again, when I say mothers in this sense, I kind of mean the primary caregiver, and I think we can all, I would suggest that the majority of the main caregivers are the mothers. Obviously there are changes, and I think whoever is the main caregiver has got so used to nurturing this child, and it's taken up most of the space in their head for 20 years. To have that suddenly taken away is a massive change, and I think that's where the whole empty nesters thing is so tied up with a woman's identity. You often find that women have maybe not stopped working, but they may have tailored their working life around being able to be there when their child is ill or take them to swimming after school. So you'll often find that women will get to this point, this stage, and almost look around themselves and think, oh, I can do my thing now, or what am I going to do, or who am I even? It's. Yeah.
I think it's sort of, I have maybe a bit of an analogy. When you work at a desk, maybe most of the day, you find yourself, you're going from one job to the other, but then occasionally you get to the bottom of your to-do list, if you like, and then you feel lost, that you don't have something that's urging you to do something. And that seems to be an analogy where you've got free rein, haven't you, to go to the gym or to just go out. And I suppose from a child being a baby, there's nothing more governing of your lifestyle than a tiny baby, whether you can go out, see your friends, or and so it's sort of really from day one. But I understand what you mean. I think to a degree, I think teenagers do transition the parents out of their lives. How would sort of coaching then help? We've said that coaching is different to therapy, and coaching is more about kind of looking forward and where you want to go. What's your approach with coaching then for empty nesters?
So one of the main premises with coaching, yes, it's about looking forward. It's about the how do I move forward, and it's about identifying where you want to move forward to. And probably the very most important thing of all with coaching, which is slightly different to other therapies, is that the client leads the way. So the job of a coach in this scenario would be to really ask questions to get the individual to start thinking about things that they perhaps haven't thought about before, to change their perspective, to look at ways in which they have become the person they are today, some of which those values and beliefs that they have of the person they are today will really be serving them and making them a nurturing parent or whatever those things that are serving you. But there might be things that aren't serving you. So you might be sitting there thinking, I can't do anything else. I was a mum, that was my job. I don't know who I am now, I've got nothing to give. So the role of the coach there would be to really, bring out of this person, this client, the magic that they have inside, because everybody has something to give. Everybody has that sneaky feeling that, I think I could be amazing at this, that or the other. And that would be the role of the coach. There are lots of different methods you can use for managing the loss, which is very real. And I do think you need to feel those feelings. I don't think it should be brushed away as an inconsequential. It's important that you go, I'm going through something quite major here.
And when you say a loss, do you mean to the extent of like a bereavement loss?
I have to tell you, my son went 2 weeks ago to London, and I've cried every single day. And it's so strange because I'm so proud of him. It's it's all as it should be, but there's no getting away from the fact that he's not at home anymore, and he probably may not move home ever again. And it's, as much as there are all these positive things around it, it's a massive, great heartbreak for me. And I just think, that is something that I can there are things that I can do to get through that loss, but I don't want to lose that, because it's like the sort of bittersweet end to this whole journey I've had with him for the last 20 years. And so I think for me, the coaching, it's about, let's get a grip on where we are now, but out of that kind of loss you mentioned about getting to the end of your to-do list, and I think that's a really good analogy, but actually feel that loss and then think, actually, let's feel some sparks of passion and desire, and actually maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that. And there are lots of things that coaches can, things you can suggest to clients about things they can try. At the end, it has to come from the client and they have to lead the way. But sometimes people need help to get clarity, help to set goals, and help to see things in themselves that they've perhaps lost sight of.